You're listening to The Critical Thought, where we challenge our listeners to use critical thinking when examining the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses.
I'm Lady C.
I'm JT. How you doing this morning?
Hi, JT. How are you?
Good.
And we're speaking with Joyce Taylor, and we're going to be discussing the situation with the triple murder suicide in Keego Harbor, Michigan, the Stewart family. And Joyce was the best friend of this family, and we're going to be just talking to her about what she knows about the situation and the family.
Sounds good.
Okay. So now, but before we get to that, can we just get to know a little bit about you a little bit? Well, remember we had talked off camera the other day?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
Talked about your involvement with the witnesses and how you came to learn the truth about the truth yourself.
Well, see, that was 31 years ago. I'll say 32 because it took me about a year to get my bearings. Yeah, I left 31 years ago, and there was a young man that my husband and I knew growing up. His name was Steve, and he he informed us on a Thursday that he was going to be announced at the Kingdom Hall as being disassociated. And that was the first time I ever heard that term. That was in 85. And so I went to and he mentioned a book. And the book was Ray Franz's book, Crisis of Conscience. And mind you, this is back in mid-80s. So I thought, oh, I got to get that book. That's all I could think of. I got to get that book. And so I called every bookstore around looking for that book. I looked at every library. I'm sorry, I'm not doing well here. Looked at different libraries. Of course, didn't find it. And then I realized, well, the only place I'm going to get that is at a Christian bookstore. And I go, oh, geez, being a Jehovah's Witness, it's like death itself going to a Christian bookstore. At least that's what we were told. And it was the hottest day in August. I mean, it was like 98, close to 100 degrees. And it was in Pontiac, Michigan. And so I drove to where the Christian bookstore was, and I parked as far away from it as I could. And I brought my winter maxi coat. That's a full-length coat, had a hood, whole 9 yards. And I had a pair of sunglasses. So I put on this maxi coat, raised the hood, put on these sunglasses, walked into the Christian bookstore, and I handed the clerk a note had the name. I said, do you have this book? And she just points like that. I'm sure she thought I was going to rob the place. I really do. She looked more frightened than I did. So I went and I got the book. I handed her a $20 bill and ran out. But I had my book. And I was like, thank God. And from there, I kept it I read it, but I kept it in the trunk of my car because I wasn't ready to share it with my husband at that point. But I eventually did, and we left together. So that to me, that is so, I look back at that day and I think, gee whiz, how brainwashed was I? So afraid. I mean, so afraid. And I look back and I think that was just asinine. It was just crazy thinking. But I did it. And that just goes to show how scared people really are. Right. Especially when you grow up in this religion.
Mm-hmm. And did you experience shunning did you and your husband experience shunning as well?
Oh, yes. Yes, we did. We didn't leave because we weren't disfellowshipped. There was nothing we did wrong. We weren't drug users. We were, a very healthy marital couple and young family. And my oldest son was 4 or 5 at the time. And so we left together, and they shunned us horribly. They still do. I went to probably about maybe 12 years afterwards. There was a family reunion that my family had, and it was being put on by a non-JW. And so she invited me. And mind you, my youngest son was just a babe in my arms. And so when I arrived there, it was like the parting of the Red Sea. I walked in with my babe in my arms, and everybody just left. All that food, everything just left at the sight of me. I mean, I thought, geez, boy, I got a lot of power. You know, look what I can do just by showing my face.
Right.
And my cousin, she was the cousin that had the family reunion. She wrote everybody. She says, this is supposed to be a family reunion, not a Jehovah's Witness convention.
Wow.
And yeah, she told them all off. So that's how I came out. But those are just a few little things that I've been through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just curious, since you had already left, how did you come to know of this family since you had left the Kingdom Hall almost 30 years ago? I'm just, did y'all grow up together, or y'all related?
Yeah. Yes. Danny was the father and the husband of the Slane family. Danny is 12 years younger than my husband and I. My husband was like an older brother to Danny.
Okay.
They were very close growing. And it was the whole time Danny was young. And of course, after we left in '86, Danny grew up, got married, had a couple of kids. Mm-hmm. And then, we lost track of them. And as, we normally do in situations like that. And so probably about 4 years ago, 4 years ago, I started taking ballet lessons at a ballet studio. And there was this woman there. Her name was Lauren. And her and I got to know each other. And lo and behold, found out she was married to Danny. So we were hooked up with our long-lost little brother. And it was a very nice reunion. And we had been close friends ever since.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was Danny a witness at that time?
No, when we met them, they had been out of the JWs for about a year. Okay. But mind you, they were physically out, but mentally in.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And they still believed in all the end time prophecies and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they basically found themselves not able to accept so many of the things that they teach, because so many of the things that they teach, they simply make no sense, because some things are just basic life things. Going to school, things that quote unquote normal people would look at and they just shake their heads like, you're kidding, you got to be joking. That's an issue in your church because somebody wants to go to the community college. So while other churches are fighting, starving children in Africa and all this kind of stuff, witnesses are fighting over whether or not you're going to get a semester class down to community college.
Absolutely.
Yeah, So
and that was a big thing for Lauren and Danny, was their children. And as it was for me, I went to college after I left, got my master's in social work, and worked in psychiatric hospitals and some emergency rooms in the major Detroit area. And and I did that for a good 10, 15 years in various levels. And I'm recently retired. But Dan, and I put my children through school. My son's about to enter law school. So it was real important to Dan and Lauren too. That was a big thing to them. And Dan also was extremely intelligent. He knew computers more than Bill Gates. Okay, I mean and he was working at the University of Michigan. Mind you, he only had a high school diploma, but he was working in the artificial intelligence program at the U of M. And him and Lauren were looking forward to a program that was about to go mainstream. And they were they were set to get quite a bit of money from that. They were looking forward to that. And so when this murder-suicide issue came up, it really blindsided me, totally blindsided me.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah. This is the part about Jehovah's Witnesses, and this is one of the reasons why we have the channel that we have. Our channel has a certain focus, and that is we realize that your typical average Jehovah's Witness that most people will meet and interact with, their cousin, somebody on their job, they're gonna basically be dealing with basically decent people. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so this image that witnesses have is very carefully crafted by the organization. So they have this wonderful public persona. But what you and I and literally just so many other people are aware of is we know what's behind the curtain.
Yes.
We know what's on the backside. And as a witness, you can't discuss what's on the backside. We have to continue to project that Jehovah's Witnesses are the happiest people on the face of the earth. So if someone is having challenges in their life, we all know how this handled in the organization. I remember going to elder school, and there was 900 elders here in Washington, D.C. at the elder school. And the instructor from New York, he says, would you like to deal with 80-90% of all your problems, brothers? And everybody looked around like, yeah. Take out this, write this down. You know, when you're talking to the friends, you need to find out these things. 1, are you regular at the meetings? 2, are you keeping up all your magazines? And so you could just see all the elders in the room like, you're kidding, right? I mean, that's it. And so such simple-minded answers to complex questions.
Superficial.
Very superficial. It's unfortunate that the average elder, the average Jehovah's Witness who works in the writing department, in the service department, the teaching department, most of these are individuals who came to Bethel at 19 years of age, started out in cleaning, started out in the press room, in the factory, and they literally just worked their way up through the organization. Now they're writing articles that have tremendous impact on millions of people's lives. So when they write an article that deals with psychology and they give it a negative tone, because the organization is very, very skillful at not writing direct statements. I mean, they're really good at that. They don't they don't say, thou shalt not go to college. They have never said, and I tell people, the Watchtower has never said, thou shalt not go to college.
Everything but that.
They just create the culture where you don't want to go, or you know you'll be condemned if you do go. And so this goes back to what Lady said I often stress. You need people, especially non-Jehovah's Witnesses. They need to understand not only the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses, but that unique culture.
Absolutely.
Which deals with, it's like in any organization, they're what they refer to as cultural cues, behavior that's right and wrong. You won't find in the corporate policy. It won't be written down in the handbook when you start working there. But everybody knows that you don't do this, or you don't wear this, or you don't do. Right. And so these are cultural cues. And unless you are in the organization, you would never know what they are. Right. And so that was why I was saying things that people like your neighbors and our neighbors and coworkers, they just consider as a normal part of everyday life. We often make the comment, Lady Sina, about an article, and I got to find, because it's so interesting. The comment was made that some witnesses want to live a normal life, and the Watchtower says we can't live no normal life. Well, this is the only life we got. I mean, you live it every day.
Yeah.
I mean, so I mean, this is it right now, and so it's very unfortunate. And so what we have found is that it's very important that people understand, or at least get an idea of what goes through the mind of a person who leaves and how it's structured. See, when we start studying with the Bible for witness, you start to get rid of all of your quote unquote friends. So the only friends that you have are witnesses.
Yep. And
if you ever decide to leave the witnesses, we just talked to someone just yesterday, and the person made a very interesting comment. He says, it's typically when people are growing up, elementary school, high school, college, That's where they form their bonds with their lifelong friends. So for Jehovah's Witnesses, who leaves as an adult, you're 25, 35, 40 years old, the people who you will interact with, they've already formed their bond of friends for the most part. People they've been known for 25 years. Now here you come, and so now you're trying to find new friends because the only friends that you have are back at the Kingdom Hall.
Yep.
They're required to cut you completely off. So that isolation is tremendous.
Absolutely.
My father worked in the prison system for a number of years. And I remember him talking about how they would take people who would come in, 275 pounds, 6'4", strapping, strong, big man, just talking all kind of trash, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would take them if they were having problems, and they would put them in a certain place, and that place was called isolation.
Oh yeah.
They wouldn't be able to operate and deal. They wouldn't stay in what they call general population. They would put them in what they call isolation. The common term is they put them in a hole.
Right.
And my father said he remembered the first time, he basically saw someone after being in the hole for weeks come out. They come out as a broken person because they spent, weeks and days with no one to talk to, just no sound, nobody. And so it breaks their spirit. It breaks them as a person. And so psychologists and people in that field, behavioral fields, they'll tell you that's a very powerful tool. And it's interesting that this is one of the Watchtower's most powerful tools.
Right.
You've cut yourself off with no relationship with coworkers, family, friends who are not witnesses, and now here you are with your witnesses who are called your friends. And then when you leave, you're now cut off as well.
Absolutely.
Right.
And
Joyce and I were talking about that, and Joyce, you were talking about like a form of bullying.
Yes. When looking at this issue with with the JWs being responsible, when we look at say bullying in school, or we look at like these shootings that are happening, or things that happen in school where someone gets hurt, first thing we look at as a society, we want to look at, is this child being bullied? That is something we all look at, and most often, yes, they are.
Yeah.
They're being bullied, and they're being isolated, and we as a society, we have no problem recognizing what bullying can do and isolation can do in a school setting. We have no problem with that. But when it comes to religion or some higher organization that employs the same tactics, we don't seem to see it because it's not written in black and white. But it's just as real. And something else I'd also like to add too is that you mentioned when someone goes into the organization, when someone's raised at JW, when they leave, and I'm a prime example, and I've had prime example of this, that they never learn to make friends.
Yes.
You don't learn to tell yourself what to do. You're being told what to do Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and God knows more than that. And you know where you're going to be. You know what you're going to do. And they choose your friends. In many cases, they choose your mate.
Yes.
Everything. You don't learn to make a decision. Decision making is a muscle. It is something that is exercised on a daily basis, whether you're making major life decisions or you're deciding what pair of socks to wear. It's a decision. And those muscles don't work or work very weakly if you don't have opportunity or never develop them to begin with.
That's an excellent point. As a person who was an elder, that is one of the things that you immediately notice is that Jehovah's Witnesses are always asking, can we do that? Is this okay? No, what about this? In fact, it is such a problem in the organization that it even irritates the society. But it's interesting, they have created this monster themselves.
Yes, they have.
There's a quote that we often use where the Watchtower made the statement that there are people who write to the headquarters. They write Bethel. They want the governing body. And I like this word that they use. They want a ruling. They want a ruling.
Right.
So they would ask questions such as, can I buy my child this toy? Can I go to this movie? And it goes back to what you said. As a witness, you are never allowed to make decisions on your own. Everything is dictated to you. The length of your hair, if you are a man, the length of your dress, if you are a woman, even culturally, the type of car that you can have. You drive up in a little sports car, you see that two-door car she got. So even culturally, every aspect of a person's life as a Jehovah's Witness is touched. And like you said, after a while, that muscle being able to make decisions, it doesn't function. And when people leave, it often manifests itself in the type of decisions that Jehovah's Witnesses make when they leave. That's one and as I mentioned, that's one of the things I'll cite. You know, there are many sites out there that deal with different things. You know, there's those that examine the Greek words and all this kind of thing, which is fine. You know, that's great. But what our focus is on, how do you practically move on with your life? How do you go on and live a balanced life? Because you've already been told you're going to be a failure.
Yep.
It's just like the child in the home whose parent says you'll never amount to nothing. You like your daddy. You know, that kind of stuff. Jehovah's Witnesses are the same way. You'll never amount to anything if you leave us.
Yep.
And sometimes when people leave, even though they're doing very well, you know, from outward appearance, like you mentioned, he was involved in major research, artificial intelligence. That's how if he was involved in artificial intelligence, he is operating on a level that the average elder, average ministerial servant has no idea.
That's right.
He cannot even carry on a conversation with the average Jehovah's Witness in his congregation. And if he were to, and if he were to try to, they would look at him like, well, brother, why are you talking about that? Here's an interesting article in the magazine. You know, that's everything is put to that level.
You sound just like Danny's father. Danny's father is an elder, Larry Stewart. He's an elder. And this man, I have known him since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. And this man, he also had a sister, too. Her name was Sue, and that I knew since I was very young. And neither of them, they couldn't tie their own shoe unless someone told them. And it was just bizarre. I mean, I knew that there was something wrong with these two people when I was very, very young. I'm talking about 10, 11 years old. And because they were just there in a body, okay? There was nothing to them. They didn't move unless someone told them to move. They didn't speak unless spoken to. They were very bizarre people, and Danny had an awful hard time because Danny his mother was extremely bright, and she's still a Jehovah's Witness. Danny is like light years. He was just light years beyond anybody I could ever imagine.
Jehovah's Witnesses do not appreciate natural gifts that people have.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a natural gift or talent, you may be good at math or science, you will never be celebrated. You will never be praised. No one will. I emailed someone this morning, and the issue was, I told him, I said, is it not amazing that a parent, a Jehovah's Witness parent, a Jehovah's Witness in the congregation, if you were to ask them at the door, and if you were a non-Jehovah's Witness and you would ask a Jehovah's Witness at the door, let me ask you a question about your religion. If you had a talented, young, gifted man like Danny, who you found out he got a scholarship, would you be proud of him? And you would find the witness wouldn't really know how to answer that. They're like, well, going to college is a personal decision. I didn't ask you what was a personal decision. My question to you was,
are you proud?
Would you be proud of him?
Right.
And an honest witness will have to sit there like, I can't say that in front of this publisher beside me because I get
You know it. You know it.
And so that's the type of culture that the witness is raised in. If you talk to your average Methodist, Baptist, Presbyterian, and you would ask a person, if somebody in your church got a scholarship to MIT, would you be proud? Oh, yeah, that's good. That's normal. But in the world of Watchtower, in the world of Jehovah's Witnesses, no. So,
I think a good question to ask a JW that's totally off religion, but might get them thinking. Ask them what their passion in life is. And don't accept Jehovah's Witnesses as their passion. I'm talking about a passion, a hobby. I like metal detecting, okay? That's a passion of mine. I like history. They have no passion. There's nothing to them. They're unable to, if they have a passion, you better believe they keep their head down.
yes, you cannot tell nobody.
No.
I think that's why I started to really didn't like it, because when I was doing my hobbies and stuff and I was coming to the Kingdom Hall talking about it, people were like, you're not supposed to be doing that. And I think that was my big crack in the foundation early on for me, because I knew I wanted more than what they had to offer. And
Absolutely.
so as time went on, you know, we had a crisis of conscience, you know, when JT went and got the book as well. It's similar to your story, but not quite as dramatic. But when we got that book, it was like the icing on the cake to everything else that we had already seen about the religion. And so it was like when this happened with this situation with Lauren, the Stewart family, I was like, oh my God, it's like now is the time to really raise awareness about this religion even more so. Let's step it up. So I actually went out on my regular Facebook page, because I have two Facebook pages. I have one with all ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and I have one with all the people that I made friends with after I left. So I finally went out on that Facebook page and put my link. Okay, I'm coming out, y'all. I want you guys to know about my past. Here I am. Mind you, we left 20 years ago, but it's like people were responding like I had just left. So if I get one person on that site to really wake up and see what we're talking about, then that's great, because to continue to sit here in silence and not say nothing is not helping anybody. Because I don't want to see anybody else go through what happened with the Stewart family.
Oh, it's awful.
Devastating.
It's basically spiritual abuse. That's really what it is.
Yes, it is
When a
abuse
religious-
of power.
Yeah, when a religious denomination takes a person and mentally and emotionally abuses them, that's what the problem is. They strip you of your self-worth. And anybody who studies behavior in humans, if you strip a person of their self-worth, that person is nothing. And that's why you was mentioned about, if you ask the Jehovah's what's their passion, we read about the articles in the magazine. I often think about an article I read many years ago about the woman who was a ballerina. And she said she will dance in a new system. And so she stopped dancing. Well, she was supposed to have been in the new system recently, because the generation of 1914 wasn't supposed to die. And she went to her grave with her dancing shoes never used again. And that's really the life of Jehovah's Witnesses. That's why
Yes, it is.
in the last few days, we've been talking to a lot of young Jehovah's Witnesses. And I'm going to tell you, with social media and having the tools that we did not have to talk about things. See, the basic problem, and what's made the Watchtower so successful at this thing, is that you couldn't talk to anybody.
Right.
If you've ever read the story about what they call Animal Farm, it's a story about animals on this farm, and they lived on different sides of the farm. And because they didn't know what was going on the other side, there was animals on the other side complaining just as much as they were, but they didn't know it. And so they felt, maybe it's me, maybe I don't appreciate something. But when you find out that you're not the only one, because that's the question people often ask, is it just me? And that's the way the Watchtower makes it seem. Right. The problem is you. Yeah. But when you start talking to people, you're like, well, y'all, you felt the same way after that article? I felt. And that's what the internet does. It connects literally tens of thousands of people all around the world who have never seen each other. Like you and I, we have never seen each other. No. We have never talked. So how is it that we can share such common experience? As I tell people, we all fed from the same trough.
Right.
That's right.
Like
Absolutely.
When I was talking to Joyce the other day, she said, oh yeah, people are contacting me all over the world. And
oh my God, it's crazy.
And we've been on the internet for 5 years doing our activism. And we have thwarted, suicides. I mean, this one guy said that he had planned his funeral until he came across our channel, because they think that they're just out here by themselves. Yeah.
Aww.
And that is by
Yeah.
design. I mean, that is literally by design, to create a culture where you feel you are by yourself. And therefore, you need to come crawling back on broken glass on your knees to us again. And that's the problem.
Which is why the reason that I did what I did last Sunday. Because I know down deep in my heart that I am not the only one, and that we are not the only ones. And I know down deep in my heart that there had to be at least 10, if not more, in that Kingdom Hall that felt exactly the same way.
Oh,
in fact, after I got down from the chair and I started walking up the aisle, there was this lady, older than I was. She was thin, petite, and she gave me a great big hug, and she whispered in my ear, "Thank you." And I wish I would have known. Yeah, at the Kingdom Hall.
Yeah.
When I went there and did my little stunt.
We saw that, right? When you went to the Kingdom Hall to let them know. Yeah, right. We saw that. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's that is the most important. And so now, as we move into this new age, where people now can touch base with other people and get the, for us, and this is the unfortunate thing about this situation here. We believe that what people need is a confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get your confirmation that you're not going crazy, once you get your confirmation that I'm not the only one who can see that the king has no clothes on, once you get that confirmation, that is what we have found in the people that we have dealt with for the last 20. We left 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we rolled out this camp. But so many people kept saying, y'all got to tell y'all story because y'all can help some folks. Y'all have seen, heard, and been involved in some stuff. Y'all can share this stuff with people. And so that's one of the reasons why we do what we do. As a result, when people get that confirmation, it helps them to put their life together better. We did a video on don't become a Jehovah's Witness poster child. As a former elder, I used to use, along with so many elders, so many circuit overseers, so many district overseers. Of course, they got fired now, but before they fired all the district overseers, so many Bethel speakers. They always use the example of the fallen former Jehovah's Witness.
Yes.
This is what will happen to you if you leave us. And I remember growing up as a kid, seeing other young people go to college. They come back, they just fellowship. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't do that. And so it puts that fear in you. And so that to us is very important. When people, and this is what we have found, the emails we get, the phone calls we get, the stuff that we get offline, which is really interesting. There are lots of people who post and all kinds of comments, like your post and don't like your post, but it's the people who comment and who get in contact with us offline. These people are like, man, I tell you, I've been feeling that same way for the last 12 years.
Yeah. It's amazing. Just that little word that, I understand. I feel the same way. And it's like doors open.
Yes.
The windows open.
I just think it's time that, I feel that with this religion, a lot of people say stuff like, I don't want to bash other people's religions, or they think that we're bashing Jehovah's Witnesses because I have an aunt that's a witness, a cousin, a sister, a brother, cousin. And they are like thinking that we're talking about them, when in fact we're really talking about their victims too. They just don't know it. And just trying to raise awareness so those people don't become the next statistic.
Right.
So but thank you so much, Joyce, for giving your time. We just wanted to talk to you on our channel so that we could further raise awareness about the group. Is there any closing comments you want to make about the situation, about what happened?
Lauren had a couple of things going against her, both her and Danny, actually. First, of course, they were raised in the witnesses, and they were, like I told you, they were physically out, but still mentally in.
Yes.
they still believed in, like, especially the end times prophecies. And with everything going on in the political society today, it really frightened Lauren. And so she started getting a little more religiously preoccupied, not just a little more, a lot more. And she thought that she had the Holy Spirit. And who am I to tell her that she didn't? Okay. I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody that. But she was saying that I needed to listen to her because she had the Holy Spirit. And she would get this almost vacant look in her eyes. And I would tell her, Lauren, I don't mind us talking about the Jehovah's Witnesses and our stuff like that. But even though I do have my own faith, I don't like talking about it. To me, it's personal. It's kind of like if I talk about it, then I don't want anybody bashing it. So I keep it to myself. And I think a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses feel that certain way. Some of us do. Mm-hmm. We just don't share that kind of stuff anymore. And so to me, it was uncomfortable, but she wouldn't listen to me. She would just keep on going. And that was especially true in the last couple of months, and more acutely in the last couple of weeks before she did that horrendous act. And in fact, I remember after she left my house, she had lunch with me. We had lunch and some tea and coffee, and I could almost hardly wait for her to leave because it was just getting that uncomfortable for me. I wish I would have looked a little bit more deeper, because that was just a week before she did that. Mm-hmm. And when she did do it, there was religious stuff written all over the house. She had a great big poster board with the statue of Nebuchadnezzar statue with the feet of clay and all this. It was kind of a lot of bizarre stuff that was in the house. And she honestly, she wrote a letter, and although I can't say what the contents of the letter was, I can tell you that from that letter, she believed that if she killed her family, that she would save them. And this is the same belief that if you die before Armageddon, you're going to be resurrected, and if you die at Armageddon, heaven help you. That's where she was coming from.
Yes. In fact, if you read Ray Franz's book, he also gives an example of, he was in his office one day, and some brother basically came running down the hall like ecstatic. They're all dead. They're all dead. They're all dead. They're all dead. Basically. I mean, that was basically what he was saying, basically. And the essence of it was all of his family had passed away in death. So now everybody gets to come back. Because he was happily. Yeah. So if you die, like you say, if you die before Armageddon, you got a chance to come back in the resurrection. And this is the mindset that this person had. Mm-hmm. His family would not become witnesses because of his preaching to them, but now that they have passed away in death, they get to come back. And so this is the type of mindset that the organization cultivates in people because of as we say before, two of the most important things to understand: the teachings and the culture. Yep. And when you're able to peek underneath the covers and see the type of culture that these people are in, that we grew up in, my wife and I, we was from a very young age, 5, 6, 7 years old, when our parents were starting to get involved with the witness. So this is all we know. I mean, this is we went through the whole thing. Yeah. So we are very familiar with the mindset, the thinking, indoctrination process. And then being an elder was my responsibility to indoctrinate other people, to make sure they
enforce the rules.
Enforce the rules.
He was a good enforcer.
Yep.
If the society said it, that's good enough for me. So it's a crazy mindset that the average good Jehovah's Witness is expected to have. I mean, that's what makes it so amazing. People can laugh, but that's what is considered a good Jehovah's Witness. So it's very fascinating.
Right.
Yeah. It is.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Story and helping other people, because now what I'm hoping that when I came out on my other Facebook page is that people will at least do a Google search to not just look at the people that they personally know that are Jehovah's Witnesses, but to do a Google search to see just how many people are talking about this topic.
Yes, there is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot. Well, thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much. Okay.
And we hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Take care of yourself.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Hey, Jay the Comedian here. Did you enjoy that video? Would you like to see more content like it? Then you gotta subscribe. And it'd really be a big help to JT and Lady C if you like the video and leave a comment. Make sure you hit this little notification bell right here. That way you'll know when another video gets posted. I really hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next video.
This program was sponsored by Critical Thinkers.